Hey guys, how are you? Happy Friday. It's Maggie and I am back tonight with another video. I thought I would start this little series, I don't know, called Patient Reacts because over the summer I made a video called Fired for Having an Ostomy. I will link it somewhere up here. So if you haven't seen it, you can look at it, but basically there was a case of a colostomy patient being fired for having an ostomy. And I kind of reacted to that situation and talked about it. So I wanted to give a little update here on that case because some of you guys have asked, and also talk about what I kind of discovered while delving deeper into this topic. Just kind of my rambling thoughts when I started looking into this. So we will get into that now. So, unfortunately, there are no updates, at least that I could find, and I was not going to go into the court system and do that research because, frankly, I don't know how to do that, but I wasn't going to delve any deeper than a Google search, okay? So, I did not find any updates on this case. My guess is it probably settled fairly quickly. I did want to talk a little bit more about that video I made because most of you guys understood where I was coming from. I just wanted to bring light to what had happened and kind of question what was going on. But just a couple people thought that I was bashing Burger King, and that is not at all what I was trying to do. I was simply just trying to talk about it. When I look at situations, I really try to see it from both perspectives, and I think that there is potential that we are missing some information. You know, Burger King didn't make a response to it, probably at the advice of their lawyers, but we don't know the information that we don't know about it. So we're only seeing it from the ostomy patient's side. He believes that he was fired because of his ostomy. We don't know if there were other things going on. Maybe he wasn't completing his job requirements. We have no idea. I'm not implying that that was the case, but I'm just bringing up an example of what we might not know. So I think it's super important that no matter what information comes out, you, like I said, don't know what you don't know. And you never just go bashing on business. That's incredibly stupid, I think. What I think is a really reasonable way to react to this is, you know, if we find out that the manager did fire him because of his ostomy, educate. People respond a lot better with kindness and education than they do bashing. They really do. If we all go running at Burger King with pitchforks and, you know, yelling at them, "You're stupid and why would you do that?" Do you think that manager is going to go off into their future respecting ostomy patients and feeling like they have learned something and can move forward with it, basically? Probably not. But if we go to them and say, you know what, that was not an appropriate way to respond to an ostomy patient because I don't believe that you're aware how an ostomy functions or what it's for, and you bring kindness to the conversation, I think that is just so much better. It works so much better. We're in this weird time of cancel culture and people oftentimes just don't have all the facts. I wanted to put that out there first because I don't want anybody going and yelling at that particular Burger King. We don't have all the facts to do that, okay? So anyway, I decided, I was like, I very generally know what ADA is, and I know it's for people with disabilities to protect them, and that there are laws for people with disabilities in the workplace that are a part of that. But I wanted to know more about people with ostomies specifically. So I'll tell you that I very much struggle saying that because I have an ostomy, I have a disability. It feels weird to me. And that's just the stigma coming out about ostomies and disabilities. It is something that, you know, over years I've been trying to come to terms with. In college, I never liked telling professors that I had Crohn's disease, even though it greatly impacted my college career, and I wound up having to be in college for 5 years because of it. I did not like talking about Crohn's disease impacting my ability to work. I would talk about Crohn's disease because, I had patients with it, but I didn't like talking about, me being sick or me needing things because of it. Same with my ostomy. I just never consider myself somebody with a disability with an ostomy. But if you Google ostomies and ADA, there's a great article by the UOAA that pops up, and it talks about how patients with ostomies often don't consider themselves disabled, but it is something that impacts a major function of the body, going to the bathroom, so it is a disability. It also talks about the laws relating to people with disabilities in the workplace. That workplaces have to provide reasonable accommodations for patients that may need it. So I know of one person, I'm not going to bring up what they did or how I know them, but I know of one person that had difficulty sitting at their job for long periods of time, so their job provided them with a standing desk so they could do their job more easily and more comfortably, and it was a reasonable request of that job. They provided a desk. And I also want to note that part of ADA with that disability is that you have to be able to perform the job. So you can't get a job that you physically are unable to perform and expect that job keep you. Jobs are supposed to be mutually beneficial. You work at them to make money, and that work being done is beneficial to the job because they need the work done. I had very few people on that video comment like, basically he has to suck it up if he has an ostomy and they don't want him because of it, like, too bad. Which, have whatever weird thoughts that you're gonna have about it, there are laws in the US about it, and I think that you're gonna find it very difficult to change them by yourself, okay? So just wanted to make a note of that. There are laws. ADA. In this article, though, this is me going down the rabbit hole, okay? In this article, it goes on to talk about maybe a young person having an ostomy, then getting older and needing more assistance with their ostomy. And it just brought up the difficulty, and I never thought of this, the difficulty of patients getting into assisted living facilities because of having an ostomy. So then I was going on these forums and finding out about all these people that, either themselves or their parents were having difficulty getting into assisted living facilities simply because they had an ostomy. And that just got my mind thinking all about that. So something that I really haven't brought up too often here, I don't think, is that before I became a nurse, I worked in an assisted living facility throughout my college career for a few years. And I started off as an activity assistant, so basically any activities for our residents I was a part of. Like, I helped run them, I would help my boss plan them, whatever. We did things like exercise groups, we did flower arranging, we did happy hours, like stuff like that. And then as I got through nursing school in Maryland, I don't know if this is like everywhere, but once you complete your first semester of nursing school, you are qualified to apply as a CNA, so I became a CNA at the same place. And we had our residents that were pretty independent, and then we had another unit that was our dementia unit because it had to be locked because our dementia patients would try to escape sometimes. It was very sad. So I wound up working as a CNA in our dementia unit, and then every once in a while I would help out on the regular floor, but I was just mainly dementia. And thinking back, I remember we had one resident with an ostomy, and this resident was not in our dementia unit, but had dementia. Like, he was pretty capable of taking care of himself, except that one night I had all of our residents doing something in the hallway. We had like this little area with tables in a corner of the hallway. I don't know how to explain it. There were tables there, and we were doing some activity. And I had a bunch of people there, a bunch of our residents there, and this resident with an ostomy lived down the hallway. I remember a bunch of EMTs suddenly like coming around the corner down the hallway to where his room was, and they took him out on a stretcher, and I found out that he had done something to his stoma. I think that he didn't recognize it as a stoma and he was messing with it, so they had to take him to the hospital. I don't know what happened after that. It made me think, like, okay, what is the cutoff for ostomy patients? So my understanding is the hesitancy with assisted living facilities, because they're, supposed to be assisted living. They're not fully caring for you. You're supposed to be able to care for yourself at least a little bit. They are worried about your ostomy care. And I, had that experience where we had a resident in an assisted living facility that damaged his stoma. What's the cutoff of care? If I felt like he slipped through, and I think that he was transferred to another, I think it was a nursing home after that, because that was scary. That was scary. And it seems like the assisted living facilities are scared to take on patients like that, probably for the reason, the experience I had. They're probably worried that something like that will happen. So I get it from that side, but I also get that patients are now having difficulty having a stoma that they may be independent with going into an assisted living facility. They might be able to care for it. But then I'm thinking, what if they have skin problems? What if they have, I don't know, other issues? Maybe they have to irrigate their colostomy and they need assistance with that. The staff at an assisted living facility might not be able to accommodate that. I don't really know where the line is drawn on that kind of stuff. Obviously, a CNA like myself at the time wouldn't be able to do that, but we did have LPNs, but I know that they were limited in what they could do in our facility. It just made me go down this rabbit hole. And I remember we would have RNs come in from other agencies or whatever to care for patients that maybe had something different going on. If we had patients that were at end of life hospice, we would have hospice nurses come into our facility. It wasn't our nurses, it was a hospice agency nurse coming in. So why couldn't there be something like that? Like a WOCN comes in and assists with that care. These are the questions. Let me know in the comments below if you have any experience related to this. I just, started thinking about it, and I found it super interesting as somebody who worked in that kind of environment for a decent amount of time. Anyways, going back to working with an ostomy and it becoming, or me realizing it's a disability. I've mentioned here before that I did wind up leaving my nursing job in a hospital because of my colectomy that I had. I was really struggling by the end of it. For the last, I would say, 2 years of working there, it increasingly got worse where, I couldn't release the mucus that was building up in my colon, and I would feel miserable. I would have urgency to go to the bathroom even though I had an ostomy, and I would go to the bathroom I don't know how many times per shift, sometimes 10, sometimes 20, which is just mind-blowing to me. I was in there, it felt like, so often. And so it was really difficult to start that conversation with my manager. At the time, I was working full-time, which full-time in nursing world is usually 36 hours, 3 12-hour shifts. So I was working full-time, but realizing that I'm starting to struggle. I remember I had to start Humira, so I had some appointments related to that. I had scopes and things to explore as best as they could at the time, my colon. And then I knew that I was probably approaching the time when I'd have to have surgery to remove all that stuff. So I had to start that conversation with my manager. She was lovely. She was really awesome about all of that stuff with working with me. So she sat me down one day and talked about FMLA, Family and Medical Leave Act, which basically allows you, I think, 12 weeks of medical leave. It's unpaid, but you keep your insurance, and it allows you that should you need it. There's a few different reasons why you could use that, but something like I had, like surgery, would be covered under that. So it was me considering doing that, and I know that there was some requirement. You had to work a certain amount of hours per year, and I obviously hit that working full time. Luckily, as a nurse, there is a lot of flexibility in your job. Well, I don't know so much right now. I'm not working in the field, and I know there's a lot of overtime and things like that that people are unfortunately having to do even when they don't want to. But when I was working there, I had the ability to drop to part-time. I had the ability to drop to a flex status, which I was basically like, do I want to drop my status or do I want to use FMLA? So I was trying to figure it out, and I felt like if I used FMLA, I was harming my hospital. Like, I was using them, and I felt so weird about it. And ultimately I made the decision to drop to part-time. So then I only worked 24 hours per week. So that way it was basically 2 shifts a week, and I had 5 days of flexibility. Which, looking back, I'm like, I don't know if I made the right decision or not. Should I have gone with FMLA? And I just felt so weird about it, and I really shouldn't have. So if you have any experience with FMLA, I would love to hear it below too. But then as I got sicker and sicker and my colon was just really irritating me, it actually dropped to flex. And that meant it was kind of, it's a little weird. We had these like groupings of weeks where we would schedule, and they were in 8-week blocks. I think I had to work 32 hours of time per an 8-week block, which is really not a lot. It is 2 12s and 1 8. That was a hard decision too, because obviously you need to make enough money to care for yourself and live. So at the same time, I got a remote position with a company. I did some nursing related stuff, some patient education stuff. It wasn't specifically a nursing role, although later it developed into a nursing role. But that was a hard decision to make, because I was like, my dream was always working in the hospital on the unit that I was a patient, and now I feel like I'm giving that up to accommodate my stupid disease. And when I was flex, FMLA you can't use because you have requirements to meet, and I wasn't meeting them anymore time-wise. And I was facing my proctocolectomy surgery, and they told me that they could give me 8 weeks off. And I remember them like multiple times. I had a different manager at this point. Multiple times she was contacting me, asking me like, do you think 8 weeks is enough? Like, can you do it? How many weeks do you need? And I knew that they were short on nurses. We were always short on nurses. And I ultimately made that decision that I couldn't stay there because I didn't know how long recovery would be. And looking back, 8 weeks was nowhere near enough time. So I would have had to probably quit anyway. I couldn't sit for a couple months, so I couldn't imagine working on the floor at that 8-week point. I was still going to my surgeon, and he was still like looking at my butt every time. So it was difficult. It was difficult, and it's so hard to know when you're going to be okay to work and how it's going to work out. But thankfully I was able to get a remote position. So then I started thinking about that more, which is ultimately why I wanted to do the memberships thing, because, YouTube is technically work as well. I put time into it, and I do make some money off of it. Obviously it's not what I was making as a nurse, but I make money off of it. And I've had people ask about, starting a YouTube channel and stuff. So that's why I started the memberships thing, to talk more about that, which I've got all these things in my brain that I want to talk about, and how I kind of started on YouTube, and then as I don't know, got a little bit better at it and just learned how the patient advocacy world works. I wanted to share some of that. But I wanted to ask you guys, do you have remote jobs or jobs that are extremely accommodating of your disease or, whatever disability you have going on? I would love to hear about that and how you guys have found ways to work while sick, because I think a lot of patients have this question. Yeah, I would love to know about that though, how you guys work while having a disease. Anyways, this was a long, rambly video about all different kinds of things. If you would like me to make videos on other cases related to disabilities or whatever, please send them my way. I would love to do that. We'll do like a patient/nurse reacts to it dealio. But yes, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you are having a great Friday night or whatever time of day it is for you, wherever you are. And I will be seeing you in the next. Bye guys.